Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we live and work in Mi'kmaq as the steward of the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. The approval of the agenda and order of business. 8.1 is off. They,
No, correct.
yes, 8.1 is off, yes. And we have one in camera, which is concerning the Zobel Library. And that's it for me.
I'd like to just give an update, excuse me, of the rally that took place over the weekend in Western Shore. And, as they, they come in, and Alan and I both gave them the money towards, through our district grant. I just want to give a quick update.
Okay. Anything else? Somebody prepared to move the agenda as amended? Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Public input. You guys don't count, so I'm not going to bother. Oh, land acknowledgement. I already did that.
Oh, did you do it?
Yeah, where were you?
I don't know. I was reading this.
I'm not going to go through all the rationale for public input because there's nobody here. So we'll go on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Council minutes, January 29th. Errors or omissions?
I'll move we approve the minutes.
Seconder? Seconded by Clarissa. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes of public hearing, January 15th. Errors or omissions?
Motion to approve.
Moved. Seconded by?
Second.
Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Proclamations and designations. Request for decision. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada to celebrate Canadian Agricultural Literacy Month. Somebody prepared to move that we do that, or?
No, I move that we illuminate the municipal building in green on March 2nd, 2026.
Seconder? Did you second that, Andre?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Can I just give the information on 8.1?
Sure you can if you wish.
Excellent.
Wish you were paying attention this
I
time.
was paying attention. So for the Chester Fire Services budget, the committee budget, it is included in your package. It is a draft budget. So they just wanted you to know that on Tuesday night, February 12th, they will be doing their annual general meeting. And so they've invited anybody who's interested to attend, and it's at 6 p.m. and it's at St. Stephen's Community Center. And then whatever comes out of that meeting will be reviewed, and then a recommendation for approval will come back to council.
Maybe we could circulate a calendar invite.
We could do that, sure.
At
Yep,
least we can make it.
we can do that.
Okay, so next public presentation is Remo, and they're not here yet. It's early. So we're on to 9.1, review of tax exemption for charitable not-for-profits. 9.1, where have I got that?
All right, good morning, council. So the first item I have for you today is a review of the bylaw number 74, tax exemptions for charitable nonprofit organizations, municipal water supplies, and licensed daycares. This is by request of council on November 27th, brought back this bylaw for review. This is obviously our bylaw to give tax exemptions to nonprofit organizations through various different schedules. So what I have brought for you today is a draft of that bylaw amended for some previous feedback that was given from council the last time we did a detailed review of this, which was in 2022. And I should mention that while we have operationalized those changes, as in we're providing the exemptions the way that we should be, we never ended up bringing back the bylaw for official update. So we are in that process now. This is kind of the first step to making sure we capture all those changes officially, as well as any other changes that need to be made. So what's included in this draft is the reflection of those changes that were directed back in 2022, as well as a couple other things. So those changes from 2022 are included in the first attachment, the excerpts from the minutes of that June 23rd meeting. And I should note that on my final review this morning, I noted one of these changes was not reflected in the draft that I've provided. That's the one for the Wildor Park Property Owners Association. That will be added as well, and they have been getting the exemption as directed. There are also a few other changes since then that I've included in the draft, and those are as follows. So the Chester Municipal Heritage Society, in the last round of adjustments, we removed one of the properties that they operate on because it was owned by the Department of Natural Resources for the province, and as a provincial organization, they are exempt anyway. That property has now been transferred back to the Heritage Society, and they've requested that we add that property back to the exemptions bylaw, so I've
Yeah.
included that here. Additionally, the municipality obtained 2 different properties from the Heritage Society, was that last year or the year before, for Wardley Park? So those have been removed from the draft, because those are now our properties. We don't need to exempt ourselves from property taxes. We pay those in full. I'm not kidding. We
You're
actually
paying
we do write
yourself,
ourselves
so
checks for
what's
those. It's just easier. The Chester Brass Band was included previously. However, they don't own any properties, so they've been removed from the bylaw. So those are the changes that are reflected here. I know that council was also potentially interested in discussing other changes for different organizations that are included in the bylaw that maybe have maybe membership restrictions that council wanted to discuss. I think that was the impetus for the request in November, as well as an opportunity to discuss any other changes, additions, subtractions that council would like to pursue for this bylaw. So options for today with discussion would be to give us direction to come back with an updated draft for first reading, and then go through that process. If you were happy with the draft the way it's laid out today, or minor amendments, you could technically make that first reading today. However, now it's the time for discussion.
Abdallah?
Thanks, Tim. I'm just looking at, on Schedule A, it's saying Western Shore Improvement Association removed because the property's owned by the municipality. That's something that I'm unaware of.
That was something that predated my time here. It was
Yeah,
one of the
no, that-
properties.
well, I don't-
They do still own some properties that are still included in the bylaw, but there was some other property that was
Oh,
removed.
I assumed you were talking about the building itself. Okay, so,
Yeah, no, the Western Shore
Yeah.
area improvement, there are still 2 properties, one in Gold River and one
Yes.
at the Wild Rose Park.
yes.
I think that other one was a reference to a previous land change. that
Oh, okay,
happened
because,
many,
yeah,
many years
I'm on
ago.
the board of directors here, and I don't remember signing the building over, but yeah, okay. I understand that, because they do have, you're right, there's
Yeah.
2 pieces. of
Yeah, the
land.
properties that that organization is listed as owner for, they are still included in this.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Tina?
Thank you, yes. So, thank you, Tim. And in terms of the reference specifically to membership and some of the organizations that we see here on our schedules, and there are 3 in terms of Schedule C, the Norwood Lodge, the Clark Lodge, and of course the Chester Golf Club. So, just begin the discussions here, I'm going to just mention my comments, my thoughts, my feelings, and my voting in terms of the 2 lodges, Norwood Lodge and Clark Lodge. So going back to 2022, in the minutes, it says, Councillor Connor stated that it is 2022, and this exclusion is an important subject. As an individual, she does not think it is right to support a membership that restricts. And when I say support, obviously I'm talking about our schedules here and having them be included on the schedules, because I certainly do support the lodges. Support a membership, in terms of our financial support, that restricts based on gender and age. She in good conscience cannot support it. And then it mentions a couple other councillors, but I'll just mention what I had said. So, again, I don't need to say anything more, because I still feel that way very strongly, that.
Well, they're still exempt, they're not.
Absolutely. So when we move forward and along in the discussion, and I know we're only at the beginning of the discussion, but when we do the motion, if we don't break some out, I'll be voting against it, unfortunately, because of a couple. So, yeah.
But they don't get the exemption, do they?
Yep, and also
Oh.
I should have mentioned attachment 2, I included a breakdown of all the properties that are included in the current draft, as well as including their 2026 assessed value, and the 2026 exemption amount, of course, that would assume 2025 tax rates. But yes, they are both, the Clark Lodge is included, as well as the Norwood Lodge.
Okay.
I know that was discussed the last time around, and then council made the decision to keep those on the list.
Okay. Sharon?
Thank you. Just before I go to the Chester Golf Club, the Chester Brass Band, they actually do own a building. It's on Church Memorial Park property.
Yes, so there was an issue we had to clean up a couple of years ago where we were basically double taxing that property because we were charging it to Church Memorial Park as part of the whole parcel.
Yes.
And then we were sending a bill to the brass band. We identified that error, we corrected it, refunded the money that was paid inappropriately. Through current property records, there's no property listed as being owned by the Chester Brass Band.
Boy, that's interesting because I know sitting on Church Memorial Park Board, they're going to be sending, you know, a bill to them for the property that they own. Because Church Memorial Park have been paying for it all along generously. You know, there's no rent, they just are on the property, but
Maybe they own the building and not the land.
they do own the building, but the land is sitting on Church Memorial Park property.
So that's why they're not.
Chad's just given me the update. They do own the building, but they lease the land.
Right.
There's a lease for the property, but the Chester Brass own the building, but not the land.
That's
Right.
correct.
So from a tax perspective, Church
Okay.
Memorial Park is paying for the entire property, and they're allocating a portion of that to the brass band. That's their internal.
That's their
workflow.
internal.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted that clarification. I have to agree with Tina on the lodges. I know that they do good work. They donate back to the community. I don't understand unless someone can come and tell me why they exclude everyone but, you know, males. I would have to agree with her. And as far as Chester Golf Club, I know we've discussed that at the table, and I would like to see them open up their membership to the entire municipality. That doesn't mean that everybody gets in, the floodgates are open, people understand that they would be on a list, and maybe they would be on a list for 20 years, but I feel that's something that they can easily do. They know that's our concern, so I really would like them to change that, and if they refuse to, which they obviously told us they have, I would not support them.
Okay, who's next, Tara?
Councilor Bremner.
Bremner? Oh,
Thank you, Warden Weber. I would agree with Councillor Church on this. I think the golf course needs to understand there's a list. It's just a list. It doesn't mean, and she said it well, it just opens it up that people are part of a membership from the municipality. There's a contribution being made, unless I'm incorrect, by all the municipality to offset that tax difference. And I believe that's a very important thing, but also a municipality thing, not just a small area. So I would agree with that. As for the lodges, I do know some of the lodges are looking at different things in different ways. It is a very unique organization from its structure, but I would support them for that because I think they do the good work in our communities and important. But the golf course, I do have a challenge with that present struggle with the tax being cut.
Andre?
Thank you. I think I'm in agreement when, as Councillor Bremner has said with the golf club. I think this has come to this table many times now, and I think the council has written on several occasions, I'm not sure how many times,
2 or 3.
expressing their concern about the geographic exclusivity of this institution. And, you know, it does good things as well. It does have youth programs. I mean, it's And I think those programs are more widely, are more open, but, you know, maybe this property tax benefit that they receive maybe isn't the appropriate mechanism if they wish to pursue a recreation grant or something like that for running their youth programs or something. That may be a more appropriate way of evaluating them rather than giving them a perpetual property tax benefit. As for the Masons, you know, I support leaving them on this list. The Masons at the lodges probably more than any group in our municipality raise money for charitable causes in terms of actual dollars. It's phenomenal. Tens of thousands of dollars every year are given to causes within our borders, our municipality. And this is a very small token. I think the exemptions are in the order of $1,500, and then the other one is like $300 or something.
Yep.
Yeah, so very small gesture on our behalf. Clubs by their very nature often are exclusionary. You know, there are many causes that are supported by governments, the YMCA, obviously gender-based, and it would be supported by governments that have YMCA's. You know, there are also women's foundations that are supported in all kinds of situations. So the idea that you can't have a division between men and women in a club, I really don't see that as a big issue, because there's lots of examples we can point to where it is exclusionary area in the other way. And this group does such phenomenal work for our community. I would hate to in any way to hold them back.
I just have a question, I guess, and that's, and Sam's not here, but how can we exclude one group because of the restrictions to membership and not exclude other groups who have restrictions to membership? Like, what's the legality of that?
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything that binds council to including a group or not, so it would be a
Okay.
council decision, and if you
I know, but the
wanted-
discussion seems to be around the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think you can decide on the merits of each individual one, and if you
Okay.
wanted to, and you wanted to have criteria, you could give direction to come back with some criteria or guidelines. They don't have to necessarily be included in the policy, but it could be another discussion at a policy and strategy session if you wanted to develop out some criteria that you could use as guidelines.
Well, I mean, somebody's gonna ask me, you know, okay, you excluded the golf club because they don't include everybody in the municipality, but yet you included these groups who exclude this person, that person. You know, I just need to be able to answer the rationale for it, that's all. Andre, you're.
I guess my answer would be that we have men all over the municipality that would be welcomed, I think, to join if they saw fit to take out the mantle and support our local organizations. I think the issue specifically with the golf club is that it's a geographical boundary that is much smaller than our municipal boundary. And it's the municipal boundary that continues to fund this tax exemption.
We exclude legions, or include legions?
Legions are not included in this bylaw. I would have to check their tax status on stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
that's where I get again, like if legions don't get the tax exemption.
Yeah, I'm not sure on why that, it might be a good idea to come back with a policy and strategy discussion to do criteria.
Well,
I'd be all
If
for
you
bringing
wanted.
legions in.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if they're not, then
The best.
I'm getting confused as to how we're making the decision. I would need a little bit more information, I
Yeah,
guess.
I'm not sure where legions fall in that. The fact that they're not in this bylaw at all,
Yeah,
lead
well,
me to believe there may be some other form of exemption that they receive.
well, I
similar-
don't know, I
I'd
don't
have to look
remember,
into
see,
that.
that's my problem.
So I'm just looking at the preamble to Schedule A, properties of a named charitable organization, so I don't know that they would meet that criteria. I'm not 100% certain.
Well, it sure seemed like it to me, but.
Yeah, and then nonprofit organization, so there's a difference between charitable and nonprofit, so they would probably meet the nonprofit for sure. That are fraternal, educational, recreational, religious, cultural, or sporting organizations in which in the municipality of council provide an active service through programs or maintenance of property to the municipality that might otherwise be a responsibility of council. So you do have some criteria in there, so Schedule B is it's a nonprofit, and they're doing stuff that otherwise would be a responsibility of council, so Legions would not fall into that one.
Well, that's where we're holding all kinds of recreational events, and that's where the garden parties that are taking place, that's where,
Yeah,
how
so
are they different
they
than
definitely do stuff for the community, but the question that council would have to answer is that a role that council would otherwise be doing if the
Well,
Legion-
okay, well then take the Masons. Would we be responsible for what they're doing? I mean,
So-
I'm all in favor of it, I was a member at one time, but you know, like,
So
But
say
it's
there,
just-
there are kind of three schedules that
Yeah.
may apply to an organization, right? There's Schedule A, which is for charitable, Schedule B, which is for nonprofits who deliver a service which would otherwise be the responsibility of the municipality. And then there's Schedule C, which is nonprofits who provide, well, I can look at the exact wording here. They get a partial benefit, right? So instead of paying commercial, they'd pay residential.
residential, yeah.
And that would be for a broader scope of those types of organizations, not necessarily providing municipal service, but for which council agrees that they're providing a service that is beneficial and worthy of an exemption.
Okay, well, if Legions fall into that, then I can see the Masonic lodges falling into that category, but I
And that
just-
is the category that they're in,
Yeah, okay, but I don't even know if the Legions where they are, you know, I just like clarity, that's all, so I can explain it to people. Tina, sorry. Well, your green light's on.
That's okay, no problem. So I know that we're still in the discussion, but just to go back to a previous comment around the level of community contributions that are made, if you will, throughout the years with the Norwood Lodge and the Clark Lodge, I absolutely give them a shout out for that. Obviously, the Norwood Lodge is in my community, so I'm familiar with the Norwood Lodge. I know that we're able to sponsor both of those lodges. I believe it's only in the cases of community events, public events, things of that nature. Because I know that, again, one of the lodges called me because one of the other lodge got a grant, and I said, well, it was around that specifically, an event. So no, we're not gonna fix your roof. So in addition to the lodges, I want to give a shout out to the Chester Golf Club, because I know that with Pro Kids as one example, I know that it's not the Chester Golf Club necessarily, it's individuals that are members, but the facility offers itself up to that fundraiser, so they're still involved. So the Chester Golf Club, equally so, if I add it up over the years, has invested tens of thousands, using that term, tens of thousands of dollars back into our communities. So I just wanted to give that shout out while we're still in the midst of a discussion in terms of merits and so on.
Abdallah?
Jen, so this is our bylaw. I mean, it's not in the MGA.
So it does fulfill certain sections of the MGA. The MGA allows for exemptions to be granted, provided they are included in a bylaw. But the MGA does not require us to do this. Right.
Because, I mean, this is getting really
It's complicated.
very complicated, which we need to resolve. And how you do that, good luck, but, so if you know, is it common practice for municipalities across the province to have a bylaw as well?
I have not done a full jurisdictional scan, but I would assume that yes, the
Okay.
majority likely, if I
And
can look into that and find out for sure,
Yeah,
but
I'd appreciate
I
that,
would
because
imagine.
if they have any same problem, like, how do you, it's hard to set a precedent and then not follow it.
I'm all in favor of the bylaw, I just
Yeah.
want some clarity
Well,
on
you need,
how or
you need to
why
really
it
get
is
down
that
into the nuts and
people don't.
bolts of it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you like it brought back to a policy? We brought it back today because we had direction to bring it back before budget discussions. And we canceled our policy and strategy, so we put it on the agenda for today. But we can bring it back after, it'll be a little later in probably March that we would have to bring it to a policy and strategy session. We could bring it for discussion and try to provide a little more information and context on each
Well,
of
these people are already getting the exemptions, aren't they?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so if we just leave it that way, they'll still get them.
Yes.
But I just, like, if we're gonna exclude some and add some, I just,
And
I
of course,
need a
the
rationale.
first tax bill for each fiscal year doesn't go out until April. So you would have through budget time, basically, to make any changes if you wanted them implemented in the
well, I
following
wanna know that,
fiscal year.
whatever. You need to know that they're exempt and we're not getting revenue.
Yeah, there is budget implications, but any individual change isn't gonna be a huge change unless
No.
you're totally scrapping the
Yeah.
bylaw, but I don't see that as an option, right?
Okay. Andre?
The only one that I don't think that any of us are arguing about is the golf club. Unless I'm reading this room wrong. Well, the golf club. I mean, well, perhaps the warden isn't quite there yet, but, but anyway, just reading the room. But, you know, we could, like, the broader debate is about legions, lodges. I think that could be put to the side. And if it took another year to figure that out, this has been going on. These lodges have been receiving this benefit for a long time. It's not a crisis that they be removed in a month. And it would give us more time to think about it, talk about like what our policy will be with respect to legions as well. You know, the policy, the bylaw references fraternal orders. Anything fraternal is exclusionary. We have to do some soul searching about what exactly we're gonna accept as, what types of exclusions we're gonna allow.
Yeah.
You know, because every club, by its nature of being a club, is excluding somebody, otherwise it would be just a public thing. You know, it'd be the tavern, you just come, you know? So that's a broader discussion. You know, as I've said before, I don't want to diminish in any way the work, like, the lodges, I don't think they've ever come to this room and given a presentation on the types of things they do, because they don't work that way. They're quiet. But they do a lot of good work, don't they? Yeah. And I don't want to harm an organization that does tremendous work in our municipality, even if they're not vocal about it. So I don't know where we go, but you know, if anything, you know, we could make a motion to maybe remove the golf club if there was enough feeling in the room about that. If you want to put it all off, we can, but.
I'll make a motion that we remove the Chester Golf Club.
Do we have a
From the
seconder?
exemption.
Can I just, for clarity, does that also include the other changes that were outlined in the RFD?
You can make whatever motion you want. It doesn't have to be one that you canned up for us.
What were the other changes?
So the other changes are the ones that are outlined in the RFD. Tim, do you want to run through them real quick?
So the changes that were approved back in 2022 include, well, some of these went back and forth, but I can go through each of them. In 2022, council approved removing the property that was in care of the Chester Municipal Heritage Society, removing the Shoreham Village Senior Citizens Apartment Complex that it was previously a blood clinic, a correction to the charitable number of the South Shore Community Services Association, removing a property that was listed previously but is now owned by the municipality from the Western Shore Area Improvement Association, and removing the Chester Arts Center account as those accounts have been consolidated, so that they're still included, it was just a superfluous list. Schedule B, the changes there were, removing Helping Hands, because that property is now a distillery and therefore not eligible. There were some corrections made to the trustees of the Garden Club, Chester Garden Club. The Wildor Park Property Owners Association was added to the schedule. However, again, as I mentioned, I missed that piece when doing the draft, so that will be added as previously directed. That's about an $1,100 exemption, approximately. And then in Schedule C, there were no changes there, and D, no changes. Schedule E, we had removed the Ocean View Children's Center because it was no longer in operation. Schedule E is now empty. And then some further changes that were made subsequent to that was to add back that Municipal Heritage Society property that was removed. And then remove 2 other Chester Municipal Heritage Society properties as the municipality has purchased those. Removing the reference to the Chester Brass Band because the Church Memorial Park technically owns that property, and it is included in the exemption. That's the extent of what's in there.
Okay.
So as I would interpret the motion, it would be to bring back a draft or to do first reading of a draft as it sits.
The motion that I just got was to remove the,
Okay, so
Yeah.
then I would interpret that to take the draft as I just went through it and present it here,
yeah,
remove the golf course, and bring it back to the next council meeting for first reading. Is that?
that'd be the motion that I think he moved,
Okay.
but I don't have a seconder.
I'll second.
Discussion, yeah,
So, the way we have it now here, with the most mover and seconder, it's unfortunate, which is due process and democracy. So it's unfortunate now, because I will be voting against that motion, specifically for the reasons that I've already stated. I was keen on bringing further information back and having a more wholesome discussion once we did look into the Legion membership and things like that, because, you know, again, I'm not the smartest tack here in terms of, on the bulletin board, when it comes to Legion membership, but it's my understanding that it's not necessarily men and women. They're all welcome.
anybody can join.
It's all, and actually, and I'm going to qualify my statements in my minutes, it was 2022. It's now 2026, which, again, like Alan, or the Warden Weber, I need to be able to talk about this proudly in my community of New Ross and the entirety of the municipality, to be able to go down to a breakfast in Hubbard's or here in Chester next week on the 12th at the AGM with the Fire Services Committee, which I have another meeting I won't be making. But I need to be able to address this and answer it. And I also need to be able to talk to my Norwood Lodge members to say that I am proud of the work that they do, and I do speak with them, I know that. But again, that's more than the discussion on the motion, but that's my position. So I'm now going to be voting against that motion because of the way it is, the way it's worded, unfortunately.
Andre?
I haven't received any complaints whatsoever about support that this council has given to the lodges, ever. Maybe others have. But I think that what we've discussed here is that we wish to maybe remove the golf club because there's been an ongoing conflict about the geographical boundary, which I think this council has recognized in several letters. And they've become, I think they weren't addressed in a satisfactory way. And I think also that we've given staff notice that we'd like to come back so that the issue of lodges and legions and other member-based organizations hasn't been resolved. This isn't the end of the story. That even if you're a bit torn, you know, if you agree with the golf club aspect of it, this issue is not dead, and that it will come back and we're gonna have a fulsome debate about the merits of member-based organizations and by what criteria we will accept some sort of pass-fail threshold when you allow members. And, you know, we can have that debate openly here, but, you know, it sounds like we're not quite ready for it. And so if we at least agree with the golf club aspect of it, I think if there's enough that feel strongly enough that should proceed, then I think that you can vote for that, knowing that the rest is gonna come. And we'll have an opportunity to really chew it out maybe in a month or two or whenever we get a bit more information from staff.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Della?
Yeah, just, and on the motion, I think, you know, we've been put off in this, and I mean, my own personal feeling, I'm not speaking for anybody else, even when I just feel that the golf club will just say, good day, we'll pay our own taxes and bye-bye. But at least we can show some backbone, in my view. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. But you will bring back a,
Yeah, there will be two things. One will be the amended bylaw for approval based on the motion today and the changes we've discussed. And the next will be a policy and strategy session to discuss legions, jurisdictional scan, lodges, any other topics
Yeah.
that are relevant there.
I'd just like some consistency in how we approach
Okay.
member-based organizations.
Thank you, council.
Okay, I think I'm on 10.1, which is Corporate Strategic Management Water Distribution Program.
Is Bruce here? All right, did you want to grab him?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, we're just gonna grab him.
Where is that 10.1? Oh, there it is. Nothing straightforward and simple. Yeah. So you gave a lot of water away.
Yeah. Morning, Council.
Morning.
Just wanted to give you an update on the final status of our 2025 water distribution program. I'll be really brief. We started the program in August 18th, week 1, and we ended in the December the 7th, based on a council decision to end the program in week 16. As of December the 7th, week 16, we recorded 781 dry wells, and we distributed 75,600 coupons. And we gave water, there was 2,540 participants in the program. Of the 75,000 coupons, 60,000 were redeemed, which was 79.8% of a redemption rate. A little bit lower than in past years, but that was due to some supply issues at the end of the program where we had to allocate some of the water going out. All of that cost us $135,500. And through the participation in the reimbursement program, we had that all returned to us from the province.
That's the good part.
Yeah. So the actual money that we spent was a couple of $100 on some miscellaneous coupons. So, the distribution, just for your own information, was similar to last programs. District 1 was 8.7% of the total number of reported wells. District 2 was 4.1%. District 3 was 16.7%. District 4 was 18.2%. District 5 was 24.7%. And District 6 was 8.2%. And District 7 was 19.4% of the total number of reported wells. Not much of a change, except this year, District 6 was up considerably in the number of reported wells. So they rose from 2.6% in previous years to over 8% this time around. Just one comment on the dug versus dry, dug well or drilled wells. We had 9% of the reported wells that had been reported as dry were actually drilled. That's only an indication of the number of wells that were actually reported, so it's not an indication of the percent of drilled versus dug across the municipality. But it does give an indication of the extent of the drought because we had drilled wells going dry
Yeah,
as well.
which is
So-
unusual.
Yeah, the good news on that was that we did see an uptake in the dry and the well lending program. And so that was a good, I think, I don't have the final statistics on that, but we did see an increase on that. So that's a basic summary.
Yeah.
And
Anyone
just for
questions?
your information, your report is in your package, so,
Abdallah?
Yeah, I just, thanks, Bruce.
yeah.
Just wanted to let people around the table know that the project in Chester Basin, the well in the Anglican church there,
Yeah.
is just about, there was where we passed the reimbursement for them, there was a little change in the contract. So that's just a formality, so that's a go. So
Yeah.
that's a good
I
news story.
think Fred is going to report, give us an
Yeah.
update on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
One thing that did come out of the province, though, the minister has declared drought a normal event in Nova Scotia now going for the future.
Yeah.
So they're no longer considering this emergency, and that
No, just
means that
normal.
we've got community wells or whatever else we can do
Yeah.
to move forward, so, yeah.
Andre?
Just a couple of notes here. I mean, it's really interesting to see that it's the Western Shore area that actually has the highest reported levels of drought. Almost a quarter of our reported wells come from Western Shore. Although interestingly enough, when citizens mobilize to raise their concerns with council, it doesn't seem to come from that geographic location. It comes from another one. Very interesting statistics. In fact, I don't think I can remember ever receiving a resident from Western Shore come with a concern about water in my time on council. Interesting. Also another interesting stat, as you mentioned, the 9% reported by drilled wells, and so that would leave, I guess, 91% by Doug.
Yeah,
In those that reported the type of well that they had.
it's on the reported wells, not a,
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But, I would expect that, actually, that stat rings true. I mean, if we were proposing a new development anywhere, engineers would never rely on dug wells, as the surcharge above the bedrock is susceptible to drought, as we see. And so that if people wish to improve their water situation, drilling wells is a very reliable way of acquiring water. And it would be very unusual for people in new construction to plan for a dug well unless for some reason they know it's gonna work out. It's highly unusual. So, it tells me two things. One, our water problem is actually not probably as located in the village as what we had been led to believe. The stats are very good. And two, those that are having water problems can probably, in many cases, overcome them by drilling wells rather than relying on dug wells that probably are very old, in many cases, very old.
old wells, yeah.
Yeah, and not as deep as even if we could dig them today with bigger, more powerful machines than they might have had back in the day. Some of them would have been probably hand dug.
We've seen
So-
wells reported at.
Very interesting
5 feet.
stats. I mean, I think it's probably anecdotally, we felt this way for a long time, but this data, even though it's incomplete, it does help to give us a clearer picture on what's happening within our boundaries.
Tom?
However, this is a huge topic, as we know. It's great information, Bruce. I appreciate this. Gives some basis. I think it does or should wake up some people of the fact of dug wells compared to drill wells. We offer a program to help those that may need some assistance for that opportunity to change over. I think we have to realize having a lot of older residents and older properties, dug wells were very popular, but many of them were only 20, maybe less feet than that. That's not going to sustain. As we now hear the province says, this is the norm, this is not a crisis. So people are starting to have to think about it. I really believe we have to look at, in our building process and our permitting, that people building new construction should have a real serious look or be made, put cisterns in the building process, because without that, we are just spinning our wheels, and I believe we have that opportunity with the last correspondence I think I saw from the province saying, you know, there was an option, you had to look at different ways and different things. And I think we have to be responsible and get into our bylaws that you must put a cistern in, because water is going to be an issue. Water is going to become a country issue, not just a Chester municipality, but a much bigger issue. So I think we have to wake up. I think folks have to start realizing we need to work together. I have some people reaching out to me in my local area that have some expertise in water that I'm going to work with and help bring maybe to the municipality, discuss some options or views or thoughts. There's water, we just have to find it. It may not be the best quality, but we have methods to clear it and clean it and process it. And we have the ocean and other things. We have to look outside the box. This has to be dealt with in some way or the other. There's no easy fix, and it's costly. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Anyway, thanks for your report.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, we got time for one more before next appointment, I think. 10.2, Community Development Volunteer Recognition.
Morning, everyone. So the item on your agenda now is the volunteer recognition celebrations for 2026. And so this is before you this morning because of a request from council to bring a report back to talk about our volunteer recognition. And so for the last number of years, we have been doing the presentation of our certificates to our nominees during a council meeting. And I think the overall impression or thought was that maybe we're not paying quite enough attention to our volunteers, and having it sort of as an agenda item on a council meeting, maybe we could do a little bit better than that. And so of course we started doing that back just during COVID times, is the reason we made the kind of that change from doing a community event to presenting in council. And so the request kind of came from the Recreation Committee to look at that, and that of course came to council, and then council had requested a report. So some of our community events, a lot of times those don't normally come to council for discussion around details and what that looks like, but because that request came through, we thought that we'd bring a report just to kind of update on kind of our thoughts and what we'd like to kind of present this year, and then if council has any comments, then we're open to listening to that as well. So so I won't go through the nomination process, so that is set up. So by way of selecting our volunteer of the year that's going to represent the municipality, we kind of have a process that we have to follow in order to get that name submitted to the province. So that will stay in place, and I've kind of outlined that process. The only thing that I will note is our deadline is March the 6th. So all of your community groups that you're in touch with over the next few weeks, let them know that we would love to have them submit nominations so that we can take an opportunity to recognize some of their volunteers. This is an opportunity for us to kind of place a little pat on the back for those organizations and volunteers that are doing such great work in the community. So in terms of an event, we have an outline in there that what we'd like to do is for during Volunteer Week, which is in April 19th to the 25th this year, is that we would kind of do a kickoff event early on in the week, and we're kind of proposing to do a couple of smaller events. So a kickoff in Blandford, and to do an event around that, to do some other activities. And that would be kind of the kickoff of the week. During the week, we'd have a few things going on through our rec department, so people could come into the office and participate in some of those things. And then at the end of Volunteer Week, we'd have a closing with another event, and we thought we'd do that in New Ross at this time. And and do again a little bit more of that kind of small kind of community recognition. And so that's the thought for this year, and obviously we just wanted to get council's thoughts on that, and then we'll fill in the details and try and make it a meaningful experience for those volunteers that we're trying to recognize this year. And then if it works well, and so this is a little different because in the past we kind of just did one big main event, and so some of the feedback that we got from chatting with the volunteers is that they're not always real comfortable in doing those big one main events and kind of being in the spotlight. And so this was kind of suggestions that we got from the community. So we're like, well, we can try it out this year and see how it works, and see how successful we are, and make adjustments for next year. If it works, fantastic. We'll do it again next year. Maybe pick a couple of different locations. Maybe we'll over to Western Shore, or Chester Basin, or to Hubbard's, and mix it up each year. And if the feedback isn't great and they'd like to go back
We'll
to like
change
one,
things.
then we could change it up, so we could leave that open.
Everybody comfortable with it?
Yes.
Yeah, we all are.
Okay, excellent.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
so, I guess it's a couple minutes earlier, but if you want to, you can come up, we'll start that one.
Sure.
8.2, now where did I put that one? 8 point something.
How are you, Tom?
I think this is it.
I'm Angela Henhofer, for those of you that know me. I think I know all of you. I'm the REMO, or Emergency Management Coordinator, or Emergency Manager, I guess, working with the province, as well as the 5 municipal units. So I'm going to give a bit of an overview for what we've done for the last year. This includes information up until what's planned until March 31st, so the end of this fiscal, and then wrap into a 3-year work plan, which was asked of the Committee of Council, and then move into the budget. So in this past year, so from the training and exercising, we've led 13 municipal trainings, so people from all of the 5 municipal units have been there, as well as participated in 3 Department of Emergency Management training sessions. Locally, we've led 2 full exercises for staff, and participated in 2 emergency management exercises by the province, and also 6 partner exercises. So that could include things with care facilities, any of our external partners and things like that we've participated in. From the stakeholder meetings, I'm just kind of gave a bit of a synopsis from all. This was a generic presentation that went to all 5. So about 41 stakeholder meetings that I've held. So those could be either regional partners that affect all 5 municipal units, or some that are targeted into each of the municipal units. So examples could be Nova Scotia Guard, South Shore Open Doors Association, comfort centers, fire smart presentations, care facilities, water or wastewater treatment tours, as some examples. So a variety of stakeholders there. Community presentations and outreach, we've done 13 presentations. Some examples again, we did the launch here in Chester with Castle and the fire department for Emergency Preparedness Week, which is the first week of May every year. This year, just as a note for future, we're doing actually the large expo again this year, and it'll be the first week of May, the Saturday, May 9th. So this one we did the launch, and we did something different. Every 2 years we do the expo, just simply because it's a lot of staff time to coordinate. Castle has always given us a generator, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years. So they've done it again this year. So it was a great opportunity to launch it. The fire department was there, and then we were providing residents information on how to prepare for themselves at home, and then also obviously to put their name into the draw. Family resource centers, some individual presentations at, like as an example, Marriott's Cove, and then vulnerable sector presentations. Activation-wise, we participated and supported through Bonnie Lee Farms for the propane leak. Shoreham Village had an evacuation. There was a drowned and missing persons in town of Bridgewater that we supported. And then the largest one that we had was the Long Lake Dalhousie fire. We sent 17 fire departments over the course of 56 fire departments over the course of 17 days. And while doing that, also really looked to ensure there was input from the fire departments, but also keeping enough resources here at home to make sure that we're supported here should anything happen.
You got that all straightened out yesterday at your meeting, didn't you?
Yes, the fire services side, yeah, we've got some plans for going forward for the fire services, yeah. And then Municipality of Chester, Municipality of Lunenburg had the drought and dry wells this year, so supporting from the province provided water coupons this year. It will be the only time that they do it. They've already indicated that they're not planning to do that again in future. Technically, it's a planned event, unlike
just
other,
normal.
Yeah, other events like hurricanes and wildfires are also planned, however, or can be forecasted, pardon me. And then we had a rain and high winds event, and then the 2 winter storms in the last 2 weeks. Newsletters, we still continue with the quarterly newsletters. We invite residents to, when we're at outreach, they can submit that they want it. We also have a place on our website that they can do it. And then that newsletter is also shared with all 5 municipal units for them to either put in their individual newsletters or on social media. So trying to get it into a variety of ways. Comfort centers, I think we're close into the high 20s, 30s, I guess. We've got 16 in the municipality of Lunenburg, 4 in Chester, 4 in Bridgewater, 1 in Lunenburg, 1 in Mahone Bay. The one in Mahone Bay is the fire hall with no staff, and then we've also got 2 additional ones in progress. I think the key thing to note that the CAOs had asked that I include in this is it's been a heavy year of additional meetings with Department of Emergency Management. So they're rolling out completely new standards for emergency management, and the amount of meetings that we've had and quote consultation and things like that has been extremely onerous. So that really has taken some time as they're moving forward. And we also had the governance meetings as we were moving through that. From a Department of Emergency Management perspective, we're now in theory done with the Department of Emergency Management standards, and we're now rolling into the fire services standards. There's an intent that they're going to be doing a police review standards as well as ground search and rescue. So there's going to be a lot of time commitment from that, as well as hopefully input that we can be receiving. But and then actually finally the hazard risk vulnerability assessment. Although at the last meeting last week, they're creating a hybrid model, just calling it a risk assessment. So there's going to be a lot that's pushed down from the to the municipalities from the province, just based on the emergency management standards, and then likewise, most likely it'll follow through for the other standards that are coming through as well. New staff, we've got the Community Readiness Coordinator, although we just received her resignation this week. I announced it yesterday. Yeah, she's going to be going back to her old position. She felt that emergency management was a bit too challenging, so it wasn't the right fit. We've onboarded a new CAO and 2 assistant emergency coordinators, and then when Chester is hired, theirs will be onboarding. This was written when we thought that it was going to be already done, so it might be pushed into next fiscal just based on timing. Any questions on kind of the year in review
Questions
before we
at
move
this
into
moment,
the
or
next
wanna wait?
section? Sure.
Hi, Angela.
Hi.
So you do speak very quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay.
Well, there's a lot to say.
That's okay, but when you mentioned about the, of course, we are aware of the new department this past year. In terms of
Yeah.
the provincial department. So they were rolling out the new standards for emergency management, but now we're moving into the fire services standards. And did you add something else after that?
Yeah,
Moving
so
into-
there is, they have been discussing that they're also gonna be doing a police review as well as
Right.
ground search and rescue
Ground
review.
search and rescue,
Yeah,
that's what I missed.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
so those 2 have not yet rolled out, but we've been told that it's coming.
Okay.
The CAOs at the CAO table have already indicated that we all, not just the CAOs, but all of the municipalities are gonna have review fatigue, and not only that, there's a lot being pushed down to the municipalities throughout each one of these reviews.
Yeah, of
And, what's the cost associated with it? How do we integrate it and incorporate it into regular municipal business and things? Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome, thanks, yeah.
Okay, continue on.
Yeah, so we'll move into the work plan. So this was presented to CAO as well as advisory when we were, prior to this fiscal, when we were looking at the proposal to hire the community engagement coordinator. So we've updated it, but it follows the same process and theme. So I'll just look at 2026-27, but the other 2 years are there as well. So we're committing to 10 trainings and then 2 exercises. We generally do a training per month aside from the summer months, so that all staff are invited to that. Community outreach, 48 social media preparedness posts. So we've started something called Emergency Management Monday, where it's just emergency preparedness tips for awareness, just to kind of get people understanding what some of their responsibility is. And we're creating it per month as a theme. So last month was comfort centers and shelters. We're moving into winter cold and things like that. So each month we'll have a theme. Quarterly we'll have a giveaway that people on social media can get, put their name in for a draw and things like that. Newsletters, we'll still commit to the 4. For public presentations and outreach, we're going to commit to 12 this year, so at least one per month. Emergency Preparedness Week, we are doing the expo this year, so every 2 years we generally do that. Stakeholder engagement hours, we've done it by hours, so we're committing to 100 hours. To be ready training, so that's for all staff within the municipal unit. We currently have approximately 75+% across all 5 municipal units, so very well uptook since, and that rolled out following the floods, to try to really get staff trained and just an awareness as to what emergency management is and how they might be involved in it. After action reports, we still have some items, and then this is including, we've kind of added 4 future after actions as well, because each response, like we just had a big exercise yesterday, we'll have some items from that. So past as well as for future ones that are coming. We're consistently updating the emergency management plan. We're waiting to roll out the new version of it until the actual standards get out, rather than doing the work twice. So we're waiting for that to be confirmed. They have signaled that it has been finalized, but we haven't received it as an official. Following the emergency management plan, we'll have to update all of our contingency plans. We've just recently done a great update on the communication plan. We have lost 2 of our key main people in the communications team, so Jen right now is kind of our lead on that. So thanks, Jen, for helping out. And then we're also trying to train up those communication staff that we've lost in order to get us ready for that. And then any activations that happen. So that's kind of what is core planned. And then the future budget, from past budget discussions, there were some items that were added. I'm still just keeping them on more as awareness, but a lot of them are just waiting either direction from the advisory and or the DEM standards. So shelters at generators at shelters, the volunteer roster, and the vulnerable persons registry, and then so those were waiting for direction and or the standards, and then the evacuation units. Although it was discussed, it was decided that it's not going to be led by REMO; it'll be led by the municipal units. Any questions on that before I start into budget?
Tina?
Yeah.
Not a question, but
Oh,
just
sure.
as a
Clarification. Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of from past budget discussions, again, you've included those here, I thank you for that. And for each of them, waiting for direction from the advisory committee or with the standards. Okay. So the vulnerable persons registry, I'm keenly interested in, and I think that one of the other counselors has also mentioned it a few years back, and I don't know if that interest is still as keen or not, but
Sure.
just wondering, because I probably missed a couple of council meetings, or maybe the committee reports came back,
Yeah.
so I've not heard from the representatives to the advisory
Yeah.
committee, and that's my fault, my
Sure,
doing
that's
as well.
okay.
But in terms of that particular registry, where does the advisory committee sit on that?
Yeah, what we have collectively decided at the advisory is we are going to be waiting until the department rolls something out.
Oh,
They have signaled that they're going to be rolling something out provincially.
Yeah.
We just are waiting for the standards.
Yeah.
So rather than any of the municipalities creating their own and then having to change it and after spending the money. So that was the discussion at advisory, was let's just wait for those standards. As I understand it, they are going to be putting together a subcommittee of CAOs for input on that, and then it'll be shared down. So it's going to take some time, but we're really waiting on the standards of that, and then we'll roll into it. There's been talk of them mirroring either what Kings County has, but most likely what Halifax has. So, there's been a lot of discussion on it, but no decision. One version is the province is paying for it, and we all just get usernames and we support it for our REMOs. The other is each REMO pays Halifax for it, which I think is a bit redundant, multiplied by all of them. So that's really the discussions at others. So we're really at this point in a holding to wait to see what the standards
provincial
bring.
standard.
Okay, so my next question would be is, and again, no one can answer this, I'm sure, where are we in the time lapse of those provincial standards?
So the standards, when we had Executive Director Mark Fury at the last advisory meeting, which was a week ago Monday, yeah. And that was directly asked of him, and he did indicate that at the meeting that we just had on Thursday, that they were supposed to be finalized. At that 2-day conference, not once was the Department of Emergency Management Standards mentioned. So we believe that by absence of that it has been finalized, but we have not received anything in writing. We've received the last version of it, which is dated November 28th, and he signaled that there were no changes since that. So, yeah, we're just in that holding
Okay,
pattern.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, continue on.
Yeah, so as we move into the budget, with the province rolling out the new Department of Emergency Management standards, one of the incentives that they've provided is each municipal unit that is part of a REMO or joining a REMO gets $20,000. And then, so for ours, because we have 5, we get $100,000. We need to then offset it as well for $25,000. So the first 2 years, we'll get $100,000 from the province. REMO has to put in the equivalent of $25,000. The third year is a 50-50 split, and the fourth year is 75% on us, 25 onto the province. So they only awarded the grant in November with the intent for us to finish it in this fiscal year. So it was very tight. What we've done, and they did allow for staff. So what we did is we put in things like the intention is for the first 2, which are heavily funded by them, we'll put anything that is heavily cost associated onto the province's side. So this year we've put in for upgrading the second ECC, which is this facility, for antennas with TMR as well as satellite phone, and the base. And then both ECCs need to have a phone line for both Eastlink and Bell, so that if
One stay and the other works.
exactly, if one stays, one goes, both ECCs, that mirrors what the province is. We've also included in that, we're getting the consultants to do a version of all of the positions within the coordination center using ICS, the incident command system, as a standard, but our staff don't need to know it at that level because it's very heavily on-scene related, so they're going to be creating it and then rolling that out. And then the rest of it will fall into staffing. So it wouldn't allow for my position, however, because the community outreach coordinator was a new position, we can associate it to that. So anything that's remaining into that will just get still put into it, so it's an offset from that. Next year, the grant has not opened yet. We're also waiting for a little bit of help on the standards, because if they start rolling out that the vulnerable persons and we're paying for it, we'll be putting that into it. I probably foresee that a recommendation would be that we hire a consultant for the hazard risk and vulnerability assessment that they're trying to roll out. So we're gonna wait to see, so that's kind of where we're at, what we put in this year. We're well on our way for both of those main projects. And again, whatever's left over, we're putting into the staffing side. So keeping that in mind as we turn into budget. So this is similar to what you would have seen before. So the main categories, training and travel, it includes any travel, professional development, ECC training, and then mock exercises and supplies. Under administration, it's salary and benefit, office expenses, any radio equipment that we use within the ECC, insurance, telecoms, general advertising, and hosting a small amount for services and rental at the host municipality. Under projects, it's things like Emergency Preparedness Week, public presentations and outreach, and then the offset of the grant. And then we have had, Shoreham has offered 2 of their generators in the existing facility, if we can utilize it for shelters. So there's some offset for those in order to how to bring it into REMO or any of our comfort centers or shelters, and then advertising. Under the grants and contingency, this is a standard one that we have, where we provide ground search and rescue some funding for their services, and then contingency for any activations that we have. So if we roll into the projected budget, the 25-26 budget was a total of $435,000. I'm just going to round for easy sake. And then 26-27, it would have, it technically is $480,000, but because we have the offset grant, it takes it down to $380,000. This slide, the next slide, please, Jen. Thanks. This slide here is last year's budget is the first part on the left-hand side, and it is also mirroring the new, last year's budget but with the new formula that was requested and approved from the governance side. For comparison's sake, as some municipalities wanted to see what the difference was, just so that they kind of know where it would have stood if we followed the same formula from last year. And then the next slide is what it actually is based on this. this year. So it's the 20% base amount for every single municipal unit, and then the remaining of it goes into uniform assessment. And it is including that grant for the $100,000. And then future years, it will be 75% on us, sorry, 50-50, and then the following year will be 75-20. Yeah.
For the grants, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, just wanted to ask that question, Angela.
Sure.
So if we apply for the grant for the first 2 years where it's advantageous to us, does that obligate us to apply again? Or
Is it what,
that's-
sorry?
Does it obligate us to apply for the grant in the third year how does that work?
Yeah, well,
Will we decide at that time? what we
I
need?
imagine we'll just kind of take it year by year, but
Okay.
I can't imagine we wouldn't want to leave $25,000 off the table, that if we can get it to bring back into it, that we wouldn't, because especially for these projects that we already have, and if we have any new staff, that's an easy place to just put it if we don't have actual projects. So I think we're most likely, based on how the standards are gonna be, they're going to be giving us more projects that we're probably gonna be needing it for. But at this point, it's just a year by year as
Year
the
by
grant
year.
comes out,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Tina?
Thank you. I was waiting to see if somebody else wanted. But going back to the slide around the past budget discussions and those projects.
Yeah.
So this one slipped by me, but evacuation routes.
Yeah.
And led by, I assume, when you say units.
The municipal unit, yeah.
Individual municipal units, not REMO. So then I'm going to position that question, not to you,
Yeah.
but to my municipal unit.
Sure.
Because again, we know it's too late once it's too late. So, knowing that we, had the fires nearby last year and 2 years ago, the floods, which closed some of our roads, I know that's not necessarily, an evacuation route. However, when it comes to a medical emergency or a fire, a forest fire with those evacuation routes. So where are we with that specific to our own municipal unit?
Yeah, so we haven't started that project yet. We're waiting to hire the new Community Readiness Coordinator. And I think you could probably give an update on where we are on that. But that'll be something that once we fill that position, that'll be
They'll
one of
take
their
that on.
priorities, is to start looking at that. And then I imagine that as part of that, there'll be some consultations that happen with our fire departments and our first responders. Yeah.
And I can also comment if it's okay.
Sure.
None of the municipal units have started it, but it was felt that since all of the municipal units have their GIS and they have all of mapping, it really was best led with them. And they'll be sharing information with Remo after, but it really, it will be a broader perspective. We've already also started just generically, working with all municipal units from the GIS side so that we have input from all of them collectively, which is a huge, step forward because we didn't have that in the flood as an example. So just getting all 5 of them coordinated and working together on it. But I think it will be something that is looked at, and I don't think that this municipal unit isn't the only one. I think we're all at the same point of this.
You were gonna speak, Erin?
The Community Readiness Coordinator position is out now. It's posted and advertised, so we're just hoping to get a few more submissions and applications before we start the shortlist process and then interviewing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Warden Weber. My question has a bit to do with operations, but also to do with evacuation routes. We now know that there's, I believe, a potential delay for hazmat situations where we
Yes.
don't have any hazmat units. I think Kings County has withdrawn their services. So we're either counting on Halifax or somewhere beyond Bridgewater, I guess. And that's a lengthy delay. So this could become very quickly an important necessity, and then that leads to comfort stations, which are gonna both be operational first by the fire services and then municipality and Remo involved. So the coordination and the structure of this, in my opinion, is very crucial. And they're quite urgent, to be honest with you, in some ways, because hazmat things can happen just about with anything now, from mixed chemicals to something unknown to anything at all. And then you're dealing with major confusion if you don't have this organized and structured right. So I just want to make sure we understand the hazmat delay is part of what we're looking at in this routine response thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. When Mark Fury was here at last Monday's meeting, that was definitely raised with regard to hazmat. The province has currently an agreement with Halifax that if there is a hazmat for anybody south of on the western side. They will be leaning into Halifax. So it would probably be the same distance from Halifax versus Kings for us within the county. For you guys, a little bit closer, actually, depending upon where we are. But generally, it'll be about the same. Obviously, it's based upon what staffing they have at the time and who's on shift, but they have a whole hazmat response. So the province is leading that. They also, he did signal that they are really working hard to come up with a permanent solution. What that is, we're all waiting for. Yeah. Yeah, you're
More
welcome.
province stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyone else, any questions? So what do you need from us today?
I was asked to come in to just
Oh, okay, no,
explain
but we
and-
didn't
Yeah,
have.
so,
Yeah,
so
just
this
do a
is.
presentation on budget.
Yeah, so the process
this-
that we go through now is that REMAC reviews the budget, proposes a draft budget. It comes to the councils for discussion, and then, so that's what we're doing today. And if there's any feedback
Yeah,
from
you'll
the
take it
council,
back, yeah.
that'll go back to
To the
REMAC,
committee.
and then it'll come back for a formal recommendation
Yeah.
for approval.
Yeah, that change was part of the governance structure, and so
Yes,
we've
okay,
included
I-
this as the discussion one, and
hard to
then,
keep track.
once all 5 municipal units have done that, we'll have a special council meeting to not have to wait until the next meeting in March, and then it'll come back to each council for the actual
Or the
approval.
actual
Yeah.
approval, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Thank you.
wonderful, thank you, have a great day, everybody.
Now, people, we're taking a 10-minute break.
Tom, why did
call the meeting back to order, and we're on 10.2. No, 10.3, mayoral system approach. A lot of pages, somebody shorten it up.
Sure, I'll do my best. So on December 11th, this item was in front of council where we discussed two things. One was whether or not council was interested in a more mayoral approach, and if so, the different
Which
ways that
approach?
it could be accomplished. So based on that discussion, staff have taken the direction that the governance topic of whether we're going mayoral or warden is determined to be, we're heading in the mayoral direction. So if anything is different in that interpretation of the discussion that we had.
That's where we are
can-
at.
Okay, perfect. So based on that, we have two pathways for council to implement a mayoral system. The first option is you simply add an 8th seat to the council table. So to clarify, that 8th seat is the mayor, so you would retain the 7 districts.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things around that option. So the decision must be made not less than 9 months prior to the general election. So this would be January 2028. If council decides to move to a mayor system and later changes its mind, it may reverse the decision until February 15th, 2028. This change does not require an approval from the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board because they just look at the boundary piece. So we're not changing the boundaries, so we have the authority to just add a mayor as long as we're not changing the boundaries. It's when we get into changing boundaries that you have to get the board's approval. Even if this path is chosen, all municipalities, including ours, will still be completing a mandatory boundary review by the end of 2030. That review may recommend a different number of councillors or different polling district boundaries based on population at that time. But this pathway for a mayoral option is the quickest, cheapest option for council to consider. Choice 2 is you change the number of electoral districts and complete a municipal boundary review. So if council wishes to retain just 7 seats around this table, one of those seats would be the mayor, and so that would leave 6 districts.
So boundaries change.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there is a review process that's outlined by the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board, and that's attached to the report for council's information. That process would be, we would go through that user guide. And so there's nothing changed in terms of 2030. That would still happen. So even if we do a boundary review now, we would
We'd
still.
have to do another one in 2030.
Yes, and it could be simplified, like the review board might say, this is approved as is, or they could say, we need to look at the boundaries again. So that's kind of up to them at that point in time. In either case, once a mayor moves to the mayoral governance system, it cannot revert back to the warden system, which council's aware of from our last discussion that we had. So as requested in our last meeting on this topic, council asked if we could do a preliminary mock-up of what 6 districts may look like. This is attached to the report, just to note a few things. So this was done very quickly, and it was done with the following objectives. So it was developed with the goal of achieving voter parity as close as possible. So the review board has a variance requirement of plus or minus 10%. And this is the based on the average number of voters per district. The information in this mock-up is based on the 2022 voter roll, so that would have to be updated as well. The red numbers on the map indicate voter counts by community, and the blue numbers represent the counts by the new proposed districts.
Did council get the map? Is it in the report? I know it was in our folder.
It was in the folder. Oh,
I'm
well,
not sure.
it's not in the
I don't-
package?
I don't know if it's in, I don't see it. I'm just looking now and I don't see it in
Oh,
the
no.
package.
Okay. Jen, are you able to
gonna-
access the folder and pull it up?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure.
I'm just interested in the boundary review. So it doesn't go by population, but voter population, is that correct?
It's voter parity, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I always thought it was based on population.
Not
Okay.
total, no, it's those who can vote.
Illegal migrants in there voting?
Folders?
Pam has a copy of it in hers, but I don't see it in the PDF.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's in some of them, and it doesn't seem to be in the copy I have.
You know what, it's actually below the next agenda item.
Oh, okay.
Kind of skipped a couple pages.
Okay, so it is in there, it just, an item got put in between them.
Exactly, yeah.
There it is.
Well, I don't quite understand, so,
So it's just a mock-up, right?
yeah,
So it would take it down to 6 districts. So what we had to do, in order to do that, is it merges some of the districts.
so Chester, Grant, Seffernsville are now part of New Ross, is that?
Well, that's one option. So I think the point of this map is it's a quick mock-up, and it's based on existing community boundaries. Now, there could be endless versions of what 6 districts could look like, and there could be different guidelines that we use to create where those lines are drawn on the map. So it could look entirely different than this. This was
Yep.
just one version of what 6 districts might look like that meets the parity guidelines in terms of number of voters and staying
Well, it's
within our
just not
10,
that clear
plus or
to me,
minus
that's
10%.
all.
Yep.
It's a different one.
Okay, well, whatever.
So the other question for council's consideration today is the use of consultants. If the option of doing a boundary review is used, there's 2 options, option A or B within that, which is the use of consultants to do the boundary review or using in-house staff. So a couple of notes for the council's consideration on this. The boundary reviews involve technical analysis, community input, and decisions that directly affect elected representation. A review that needs approval from the board would require public engagement and that technical analysis. Consultants bring specialized mapping, demographic, and public engagement expertise and offer an independent perspective that supports transparency and confidence amongst what they present and the number of different scenarios. We do have some considerations in here around staff and time and how it may impact if it is done in-house, some of the current work that we have in the books. In terms of resourcing, because it would be a considerable amount of engagement and technical effort there. So given that significance of decisions affecting the electoral piece, staff would recommend using an external consultant just to help reinforce that neutrality and strengthen the public confidence in the process as well. So we have a number of options for consideration today. The first one is, of course, adding the 8th seat as mayor. This would automatically add it, and it can be rescinded up to February 15th, 2028. Option 2, undertake a boundary review now and maintain a council with 7 elected officials, so mayor plus 6 councilors. And this option, so there's a note on this one. The option provides a more focused boundary review, but there is the potential that the review board may require us to go back and say, no, we'd like you to look at different makeups, not just keeping you at the 7 seats, 6 seats plus the mayor. Option 3, launch a comprehensive boundary review that looks at all options and permutations that the municipality could be made up of. And then option 4, do nothing and wait until the
Like the 230 boundary.
mandatory boundary review due by the end of 2030. And just a note on finances, we do have $55,000 in the current budget to cover off any consultant expenses that, if council chose to go in the consultancy path.
Oh, Andre, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pleased to see this is here and we're discussing it. I love a good debate. So as I understand it from this report, that just keeping the number of councillors the same and adding the mayor is the fastest, easiest way to move to a mayoral system, which is, of course, a pro. But we're only going to do this once, I think. And so my perspective is that we should do what we think is the best outcome, the solution or the path that takes us to the best outcome, which for me isn't what's fast and easy. It may take more effort, but we're only doing it one time, and then it'll be done for a long time. So I personally would be in favor of reducing the number of council positions to 6. From a voting perspective, that makes it better. There's no chance for deadlocks. And I think the public would be happier to see a change whereby the cost of the governance itself doesn't really increase a lot by moving to basically the same number of elected positions. So my preference would be the option 2. In terms of how to execute that, I'm a little unclear on exactly how much staff effort would be required to undertake that, and how, I don't want, I would hate to see a risk of being accused of gerrymandering. So, you know, if we think for that reason, those reasons, that it would be good to go with a consultant, you know, where it's a one-time thing, I really am not opposed to that, but I'd like to hear from staff on what their thoughts are on the effort and the risk of, you know, some sort of whatever gerrymandering kind of situation.
So the last boundary review, we went into that with basically looking at no changes, right? Like recommending no changes. That report and just doing that work to create the report for the, what at the time was the Utility and Review Board, probably about, well, it took us over a year to get that done. You have to do public engagement, you have to gather the demographics, you have to, there's GIS work involved. So it's a significant amount of work. Definitely if you were to choose 2, it would be easier to do in-house than if you were to go to a full boundary review with multiple options. The risk in, like we said, the risk in 2 is that you're gonna be told by the you could be told by the UARB to go back and do the more comprehensive, in which case then we need to redo all of that work either at the staff level or with an engagement consultant anyways. But the real risk of this, or the real concern, I guess, from a staff perspective is, like you said, the appearance of being impartial and the appearance that we're not providing impartial advice to council. So from my perspective, my recommendation would be to use a consultant.
Now we have
It would get done quicker, it would not delay other projects.
If I can come back, would we have a possible request for proposal from the consultant that would include support from staff? Because, I mean, we have a lot of this information, we have the GIS, you know, are we able to supply the data?
Yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
it's
if
not
we-
like that
yeah,
full-on
no.
effort by consultants, this is
correct.
something that we're gonna,
Correct, we
Help
would
them.
contribute to and we would, yes.
okay.
Gina?
Thank you. So I haven't landed yet. Originally, I was thinking reducing keeping the total around the table at 7. No other way to say it, I guess. But I haven't 100% landed there yet. But I'm not adverse to 7 in total, so I haven't landed anywhere yet. If we are looking at doing a rejigging of the districts, I guess, and this again, I recognize is based on 2022 voter rolls, so we need to look at 24 numbers at least to see how we arrive at the voter numbers, plus or minus 10% when we look at districts 1 through 6, now not 1 through 7, because we do see some closeness to plus or minus 10% there now, with District 5 being 1609 and District 1 being 1434, I think, when you look at that map. So, I mean, we're getting close. So once we look at 24 numbers, might even be even further off, I don't know. But I have definitely landed on and decided, very firmly so, and I'm only one person, that we look at the use of a consultant.
Yeah, I think that's
Because that descriptive in there of what you had indicated, you did read to us, Aaron, but we all read it not last night, but we read it since we got this on Friday afternoon, I hope. Again, my community needs to support this. My community is the municipality, not just New Ross. So I'm really looking to the public engagement piece and the neutrality and the arm's length and the independence, all of that. Not me saying what I think and not staff saying, really, but independent. So I am firm on that. Again, I'm only one person. But I haven't decided where I'm landed yet on the 7 in total at the table or 8 in total at the table here. I'm going to listen to everybody else, what they have to say. Going back to Councillor Vino, Deputy Warden Vino's comments there around an even number, an 8, I should know this during my municipal studies. Does the mayor automatically vote? They can stick their hand up or not, but is it only to break a tie?
So it depends on how your bylaw is structured.
Okay, so we can actually look at
Generally
that.
speaking, yeah, you could look at that.
So we could look at that. So having 8 doesn't necessarily lead to a tie vote, because if we're looking at 8, we could build that into the prep work, changing that. I'm just saying, there's a possibility. Okay, thank you.
Who is next?
Councillor Isaac.
Gal?
Thank you. If anybody knows around the table, and Alan, you might know, so when did they go to a mayor of Mobile? And how did they do that? Does anybody remember? Did they add a seat? Does anybody recall?
I don't remember now.
They reduced, did they?
I don't remember.
I asked the question, I actually think that they just added for the first election, and then they went into boundary review after that. So similar to what we're proposing for option 1, I think that's what they
Okay.
did.
Yeah. Thank you.
Andre, were you next? Was he or Tom?
I lost that. I put Councillor Vino next.
Okay, Councilor Vino's next then.
Well, I'll just say that, just thinking, first, we have 2 options when it comes to mayor voting, I think. So either the mayor votes at the end to break the tie, or the mayor votes with everyone. And so in the event that they vote where everyone, you're gonna be in a situation where you could have deadlocks all the time. If you have them with a council of 7, you'll have a situation where the mayor very seldom actually has an opportunity to weigh in with a vote. So either way, with a 7-person council, it's problematic, because, the mayor, the idea of the mayor is to have an official that's actually elected broadly by everyone in the municipality, and has, in theory, a broader view of the wishes of those folks. So their vote would almost never come into play when we have a full council at the table. And I see that as a real problem. I think you would want to have that vote and be able to count on that input on routine decision-making. So a council of 7, I see as a big problem in terms of the actual governance structure and decision-making at the table, personally.
Hey, Tom?
Thank you, Warden Weber. I've had lots of communications on this. There's opposite views. I think for modernization, the mayor is definitely the way to at least look and explore. I like the option 2 with the understanding that we use a consultant and get real thoughts and views and hear from people and do that. Of course, I'm not sure of the cost of that. I don't know how expensive that becomes. The element of the 2030, there's going to be a review anyhow, kind of keeps me a little bit in the unbalanced 100%. And we have to realize, and I think Councillor Issa said it well, I have a huge district, but I only have so many voters. There's a lot of people that don't have the opportunity to vote. They're taxpayers, but they're not full-time residents. And that actually outweighs my number of constituents that can vote. So it's very interesting and challenging. Would we, CAO, would we be ready for the next election if we went with option 2, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would probably take the better part of this next fiscal year to do the consultant study engagement, come to a decision. And then we would go into the process, depending on where we land with the boundary review and the decision from the NSRAB, we would then start the prep work in terms of getting our bylaws together. So it definitely would delay that work and compress that timeline, but we would be ready.
Then I know that would be looking at option 2 and looking at that for the option that I would consider at this point. Thank you.
Yeah, consultant is the best approach.
Thank you.
Sharon, yeah.
Definitely, we need a consultant on this to just get it out of our realm, because certainly, you know, the dynamics will change. If option 2, to go with 6 councillors and a mayor, obviously, boundaries are going to change, and, you know, it's going to change. Maybe there'll be, well, there'll be one less councillor, so that's something I think the public needs to know.
Think about it.
And think about it, because some, you know, areas may be represented by another councillor, and I don't know the feeling on that, but I also know that if we go with 8, we're adding one person to the budget, and, you know, are the public willing to do that, add an additional 75,000, maybe more? I don't know.
So if we go with option 2, hire the consultant, don't make any decision on the numbers just yet, and just see what it all means.
Yeah,
Here's Clarissa.
That option 2 seems to be the most common around the room ideal that we should go with for now, knowing that 2030 is right around the corner, like it's gonna happen regardless. So the review has to happen on its own time, and I would be supporting option 2.
Abdallah, you're next.
Yeah, I just, so if it comes to pass that we have to undertake a boundary review based on what the province, UARB or whatever it's called now, is that an expensive process?
So option 2 still is that process.
Yes, that's what I understand, yes.
It's just that the UARB may come back, and if we were to only consider one option, removing a councillor, adding the mayor, instead of, say, going down to 5 districts and adding a mayor, or maybe going up to 8 and adding a mayor, like the full range of options, the UARB could tell us to go back and redo it. And that has happened several times. I think it happened
was
to
my next
Model and
question, if you knew.
Yeah, it has. So I think it happened at the District of Lunenburg in the last one. They put a proposal together and they were asked to go back and redo it. So they do that.
Okay.
And so, I mean, is it expensive? We're going to go through that process and do that anyways with a consultant. And so ideally, they would give you those flags and that advice at the time that that's what you risk. And if that's kind of where it washes out, that recommendation makes a lot of sense, you probably aren't going to be required to go back and redo it.
Okay.
But that's what the consultant would be able to
Great.
tell you.
Well, I'll, yeah.
If we hire the consultant, he can look at both options, the 6 or the 7 or the 8, can't he? I mean,
Yeah, so I think that's the difference between option 2 and option 3, right? Option 2 is narrowing the scope of what you would have the consultant do, so you'd get a different price, because they would just have a narrow scope of what you're asking them to do. If you want us to look at all of the options, it's a little broader scope for the consultant.
okay. Andre, I think you were next.
Want to say, like, these boundary reviews for those new councillors, they happen every 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not really a big deal, and I'll have staff correct me if I'm wrong, but for the most part, what I believe the UARB are looking for is to make sure that we have equitable representation amongst the districts.
Correct.
Now, there are other municipalities that have workloads on their councillors that are greater than ours. For example, you know, we have maybe between, say, 1,100 and 1,300 or so voters in our districts, say. And if we were to reduce to 6 districts, then it might be
15.
it might be 1,700 or something. But if we have equitable distribution amongst the councillors that are elected, I wouldn't anticipate a big problem from the UARB, and I don't think that ghost in the room, that this is gonna be a big problem for the UARB, really is realistic. I think, you know, that if they're looking at that, they don't care if Marriott's Cove is part of District X or District Y. It doesn't really matter to them, I don't think. I think what they care about is equity. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but if, what we should be deciding is what philosophy we want today. And making it so broad, then, and it adds cost and complexity to something that shouldn't be.
Sam has a comment.
Yes, I was a returning officer for many years, so I'm pretty familiar with this whole process. And what the board also looks at, besides numbers, is they look at community of interest. And it's a huge part of it. It's not just a mathematical exercise.
Okay.
And just something that just jumps at me when I look at the 6 is that we're creating some districts that might, on the numbers, make sense, but
Community of interest.
there's no community of interest in some of the districts. And then also the other aspect is the sheer size of the districts we're creating, like Councillor Connor's district would become enormous. Enormous. So those are all factors of, that have to play, the board would look at and say, is this, so, anyway, so it's more than just numbers, that's all.
Yeah, yeah, that's my concern with the change. That's why I'm all for going to the mayor. I don't know whether I'm at the 7 or the 8, because, and it is community of interest, and like, you know, I mean, my district has been that way forever, like, and, you know, and people believe they, you know, do they want to change it? Do they want to live in a different district? Do they not? You know, those are all good questions, but whatever. Okay, sorry, Tina.
That's more than okay, because I really very much appreciated our solicitor's comments. I had written down communities of interest on my notes here. So thank you for that. That's crucially important to me, crucially important. And around the whole process here, adding cost and the cost piece, man, when I sit here and I see what we spend our money on, you know, with infrastructure and studies and reviews, I'm okay with it, I'm proud of it, because it's the right thing to do. So the right thing to do for me is to not shy away from maybe adding a step or two and the cost of it, so, because we spend a lot of money here. So I just want some clarity around what I may or may not be sticking my hand up for. And that's option 2, the way it reads now is 7 elected positions. Bracket, mayor, and 6.
Which means we're reducing the
That's
districts.
right. So I'm game for the external hiring. I know, again, I'm going to say it again, 4th time today, I'm only 1 vote here. But for me, I'm not there yet. I might get there in terms of a mayor and 6, but I'm not there yet because, again, of what we've just said.
I want to see what the
Warden,
boundaries would be.
the communities, what Mr. Lamy has just said. Councillor Bremner had mentioned the non-voting individuals that he represents. Similar with me in terms of, and I saw that noted in the UARB, the descriptive of my narrative. I was happy to see that the councillor in the area represents a lot of the cottage population, so I was happy to see that. And again, it's not right to put names to it because it's a councillor from this area. I may or may not be here in the next election, of course, right? It's the same with everybody. So I want to be clear on what someone's gonna be putting forward a motion, because I need to hear from my communities, I need to hear from that external individual, all of the things that we just talked about. Geographically, what makes sense, communities of interest, what makes sense. Let's look at our current voter numbers, what makes sense in terms of what we're looking at again on that map, as I've already quoted, 1609, I think, or 1605, something like that, in District 5, right down to 1434. In terms of District 1, we could be increasing that difference. Whew, okay, thanks.
Okay, I think it was Andre next, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess 2 things are of concern to me if we enlarge our government. And that is, 1, if the consultant comes back with a recommendation that we can't go out to the public and have and sell it to them that they're going to be happy with the outcome, I see the whole project will fail. And my feeling is that an enlargement of government will not be very popular with the folks that we represent. That's how I feel at this point. Maybe we're going to go out for consultation and you'll learn that people want to spend more on government. I don't know. That's not been my experience. I guess, secondly, I would need to have some clarity on exactly how the decision-making would be made when you have an even number of elected officials. I feel like that is a big problem. That's the second issue. But the first issue, I think, is a primary issue for me and what's led me to this desire to see a reduction. Because I just think that if we explain to people that it's really a nominal, a very small cost, and we're just changing the structure, that's palatable. You know, maybe people will have a little culture shock at first if the boundaries change. Oh, I used to be in so-and-so's district, now I'm in somebody else's. Well, okay, well, that's okay, they'll get over that. If we did a boundary review and there was a boundary change, that can happen too. So that I don't worry as much about. It's the enlargement of government is usually not met with optimism.
Can't disagree.
Who was next?
Councillor Asa.
Councilor Asa.
Yeah, you know, I'm not leaning one way or the other, but I sort of, now that I think about it a little more, when I'm looking at option one, we can, this decision can be rescinded in 2 years, okay? It's the fastest implementation, sorry. It's no, and I know, and I understand, Andre, the fact that we're gonna, listen, I'm all for smaller government. But I think with the option to rescind it in 2 years, that means a lot to me. Like some of the options where once you enact them, that's it. It's a point of no return. I don't remember the option, but there's
Yeah,
one that's.
So any of the options, once you go to the election and you start the electoral process in that election year, which is 2028, you need to have had your decision made, right? So if you make the decision now, you have up until whatever the date was in February, February 15th, to rescind that. Now, that would allow us, in the meantime, to start working on bylaw changes. Once you do those bylaw changes, you know, the further down and closer to that date you get, the more difficult it is to undo stuff, because we'll be making changes that implement that direction, right? So yes, you can undo it, and then we would need to rescind anything that we've done in terms of bylaw changes. But once you go into an election and you have your mayor, you cannot reverse that decision.
No, that's the
Now,
way
if the
it is.
utility, if we go to a boundary review and you go to the utility and review board and say we were to get there next year and they make a decision to approve the new boundaries and the mayoral system, that is not, once the
done.
the utility
Over
review
with.
board, then it's done. That decision is made, yeah.
I like the fact that in option one, that there's no NSRAB process. That's part of it that I liked, as well as be able to rescind the decision, and it's the fastest.
Okay, what do we want to do, people? I mean, I guess I'm not against boundary change, I'm not for it until I know what it is.
Well, then let's figure it out.
Yeah.
If we just go down, if we go option one, that closes the door on even figuring out what it is that we're talking about. It's a lot of, well, I'm fighting a ghost in the room here. I don't even know what we're arguing about yet, because we haven't seen it. So,
No,
you
but
know,
if
if we
we-
get the consultant involved and we assume that there's gonna be a boundary change, then we can at least evaluate that. There's no harm in going that far, besides we spend some money, a big deal. And then we know the answer. If the answer smells bad, you can go back to, as Abdullah quite aptly says, we can go back and look at just keeping it and adding the mayor. That's the fallback position, it shouldn't be your lead position.
No, I'm all for doing the review, it's just that I'm not saying that I'm gonna be for it until I see it.
Fine.
Yeah,
I think none of us are saying for sure that we're happy with the outcome, because we don't know what the outcome is.
no. Okay,
So let's go with option two, with the consultant 2B. I'll move that.
That's not the comprehensive one.
No.
That is restricting the scope to only 7, like to.
That's
do
right, and then we'll
mayor.
have a look at it,
Okay,
and then we'll make a decision whether that smells good or not, and if it doesn't, we'll go back to option 1.
And 2B would be led in-house?
you said consultant.
Oh, with a consultant, so 2A, okay.
Okay, who was
Sorry,
next?
sorry.
Tom or? Tom.
Yeah, I think we have to have consultation. We have to have someone come in and talk to us and give us something to look at, because without that, I am not prepared to say it's a smooth road with, and I like the option, we can rescind even after that.
Yeah.
So I think that I could support that number 2, to be honest, thank you. 2A.
Okay, Tina?
Yeah. So you can support 2A. Where's 2A? Oh, there it is.
2A, to
There it is.
clarify,
Yeah.
is not looking at multiple makeups. That is only looking at 6 districts plus a mayor.
Right, and it
So
could be
that's the
different,
scope.
it's not necessarily, so just for clarity, it's not looking, it's not telling them to take the map that you saw today with 6 districts.
That's
It's
right. No.
different permeations of what
Of
those
what
6
Of six
districts
look like.
might,
Of six.
might look
We're
like.
still-
So that's not, you're not
I'd like to look
deciding.
at
Yeah.
both the existing and 6.
Yep, yeah. So
And
in
I
terms
don't
of-
see why they can't do both for a couple $1,000s extra.
Yeah.
And tell me what it means.
So you're saying look at keeping 7 plus a mayor and what that would
Yes,
look.
and what that boundary review would look at, and what would it look like if we were doing 6?
No boundary review.
Sorry, do we have a seconder for that original?
We do
motion?
not.
Okay, so
The motion's not on the floor because we don't have a second.
how does it work then if you can't make a motion?
Nope.
But so it's a question before a motion. So how does it work? There's a motion on the floor without a
There
seconder?
is no motion on the
Okay.
floor. It's been moved but no seconder,
then
so it's
I-
therefore not there.
So then, what Alan said, what the warden just said, right? Look at all
There's-
scenarios, including the
Which
current,
is option 3.
which is option 3. Okay,
Option 3 looks at everything, every
It looks at
possible
everything.
makeup. It could
Okay.
be 5 districts, it could
That's right.
be
It
4
could be
districts.
whatever,
Okay.
whatever
Could be
works
9.
best.
you know
Yeah.
what? Okay, I would put forward that as a motion,
So your motion is to move forward with option 3.
looking at all options
With a consultant.
with the
With a
consultant.
consultant.
With the consultant, comprehensive.
Anybody prepared to second that?
I'll second that motion.
Seconded. So discussion on the motion. Yes. On the motion, mind you.
The problem that I have with option 3 is if we want to have good public engagement and you don't have specifics to engage them on, it becomes very confusing to get data back from exactly how the public feel. If you go and say, this is the proposal, and you have maybe a few permutations of the geometry of the boundaries, that's something you can get really, really good and definitive feedback on. If you go and it's a free-for-all with all kinds of options, how are you gonna distill this public information, because this is the big part of this, down to something usable, where you actually have, you know what the feelings of the people are. You know, there's too many options for them to really give you good feedback. And that's the issue with going with these shotgun consultations. Nobody knows what they're talking about. We do it all the time, and it doesn't work, and we're never gonna learn.
Tara has a comment
So-
and then Abdallah.
I think we could probably structure the scope of work for the consultant and the process for the consultant to be to go and look at different permutations, do the
Then take
tabletop exercise, bring that back to council with a recommendation of what they are recommending, and then council could direct the engagement to happen after that, once you've landed on the option that you're preferring, and then you can go out and do some more engagement.
What is
of
that
the
analysis
engagement
gonna really entail that we don't already know?
Yeah, so it's going to be doing the different permutations of what that might look like, if you land, so there could be different check-in points with council of, this is what it looks like, this is what we're recommending, that we explore further in depth, in terms of parity and all of that, that we go to, say, it lands where you.
But then we're
you're
picking the
thinking.
boundaries again. It's exactly what we don't wanna do.
Well, if they suggested that, that's why we're hiring them, is to give us
Yeah,
that
to give-
information.
to give
Give
us-
us-
It's bad.
Okay, Abdallah has the floor.
Yeah, I just think with option 3, speaking to Councillor Vino's point, which I don't agree with, It says in the pros, a broader approach helps demonstrate fairness, transparency, and independence in the decision-making process, all of which the NSRAB places a significant weight on. I think that's what we're
Perfect sense.
interested in. I mean, I think the public likes to know. They don't want to be limited to one or two options. They want to know all the options. If not as a counselor, but as a citizen, I would want to know, you know, if you're going to do this, what options are there? Like, is there something that you didn't think of, or, so that's why I'm leaning, I don't know how has the motions been put on the floor?
It has been, yes.
Sorry. Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion?
I can't believe for a second you think that the public is gonna come back and tell you that they want more government.
And any further discussion on the motion?
What are we voting on, 3A?
Yes. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. That's where we're going. Okay, now where am I? Yeah. Sure was. Okay, 12.4, Community Wells Proposed Agreement.
This should be shorter to start.
Hey, we're on the Community Wells thing now.
All right, good morning, everyone. As you all know, we're trying to establish a community well, one in each district. We are advised by legal and insurance to have a standard contract first. And we had one earlier, at the end of last year, but then council had a good debate about including basically a hosting fee.
Yep.
So we now have a proposed standard agreement that will include the $5,000 as an incentive. And it basically outlines who's responsible for what and covering everybody off as best we can. And they'll all be tweaked a little bit once we have someone sign on, but here's our best shot, basically. Right.
Yeah. So we already know that the Chester Basin Church has asked for some tweaks to it?
Minor ones, yes,
Minor
yeah,
ones,
yeah.
So all we need to do is approve it in principle, and if we
Well-
need to make some individual changes for various people.
Yeah, we bring back each one individually for approval, because now we'll go exactly what the costs are, right? And when we believe it's this, and this, get that approved by council, go back, do it, and then hopefully open for business for that.
Okay? Anybody, any?
I'll move that we, move this amendment, to, or this, I guess, what do you call this thing? This,
Standard
proposed agreement.
Yeah.
It says moved, do we have a seconder?
Second.
Just seconded, discussion on the motion.
Yeah, I just have a question. So the hosting fee, unclear, I maybe read it, but I didn't see it. Will there have to be like quarterly testing of these wells?
Yeah, there's a number of tests that we do as per environmental regulations. We do those in-house, and there'd be a budget for doing that, yeah.
Has
So
to
the-
be done.
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought the community organization would do that considering their.
No,
pay.
we have the operators for that. It's strictly enforced, and it's, yeah, we have certified operators that'll do that or under the direction and so on. And that's required by environment because there'll be more than 25 people using it.
Okay.
Right.
And what happens if it's deemed that it's not fit to drink? Do they stop?
We would shut it off, advise them, and see what's wrong with the system, right? Whether we need to, maybe we just need to shock the well, maybe the filtration system isn't working like it's supposed to, so there'll be lots of tests involved there, but once it gets going, it's just like the system we have here.
Okay.
We do testing there as well, just make sure everything's fine. right?
Okay.
It has to be done, yeah.
Yeah.
And if there was a big issue, if there was something that required a significant investment
Then
to
they'd be
bring the
back to
system
council.
up to standards, then we would be back to council, explaining what it is and what the costs were.
Correct.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. We're getting there. Q3 financial information, update.
Good morning again, council. So this item is an information report with updates on operating revenues and expenditures up to the end of December in the current fiscal year, as well as a capital update for spending, and I actually extended the date for that reporting up to January 29th, just because more information is more helpful there. So this is intended for information purposes. There isn't a whole lot of detailed analysis put in here. However, if there are any questions about any particular things, we can do our best to answer them now and/or take those questions away and come back with further
Want them to go
responses.
through it all, or do you?
Primarily,
has
I'm not
everybody
intending
read
to
it?
do that.
No, I know, but I'm just asking.
I'll give you just some high-level stuff that's written in the information report. So the operating numbers, budget is basically just the budget book format. So all the narrative stuff, the descriptions and the highlights, those are exactly what you would see in the approved budget. As always, the numbers are presented as a net expenditure. So if it's a negative in brackets, that's a revenue or a gain. The 5 columns provided are the approved budget for the previous fiscal year, 24-25, as well as the current fiscal year, 25-26. I've included the final year-end numbers for last year, as well as the Q3, that's April through December, for each of the 2 years for comparison's sake. I have not included any reserve contributions or withdrawals in the Q3 numbers because we do that as an annual process rather than a quarterly process, so they wouldn't be complete or as relevant. That's the updates or the context around the operating. The capital includes all the approved capital budget programs for spending within the current fiscal year, including the approved budget, the actual spending recorded up to near the end of January, an expected month of completion for each of those projects, and then some other notes for each individual one. So beyond that, if there are any specific questions, I'm happy to address those now. Otherwise, this is intended for background information to help you leading into the budget discussions coming up.
Nobody seems to have questions, so I'm going to say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, staff information, corporate and strategic, safety report. Nobody's did that I know.
Good morning, council, again. Just wanted to bring your attention to the year-end report for safety in the municipal unit. We had total, just in incident review, we had 18 employee-related incidents and 13 what we would call non-employee incidents recorded. Of the 18 employee incidents, 13 resulted in only minor injuries. There were no serious injuries or resulting in any lost time, which was a very good statistics. 3 of the incidents involving employees were, or 5, sorry, the major ones were slips, trips, and falls, which is one that we always get, especially goes up during the winter months.
I did that twice like yesterday.
Yeah, there's lots of ice out there. But the other major category was involving minor property damages to our own structure and equipment, and also some damages to our vehicles. Of the non-employee related incidents, we had 5 small fires up in the landfill. Luckily, they were extinguished very well and quickly by our own staff, which is great. We had no major incident there. And we...
You're sure,
Yes.
I just wanted to, I've seen, so it says a dog bite. Was that someone on our staff that got bit?
Yes, yeah, it was our bylaw officer. That,
It was, oh, really?
yeah, yeah. It was a minor bite, but yes, we did. Yeah. But he was visiting, he
Okay,
was on the job, and was an incident with a dog at the homeowner's place, so. Yeah.
So what, I guess there's nothing we can do it as a dog.
No,
bit.
we took appropriate medical
okay.
follow-up, but there was
Okay.
nothing major.
Thank you.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I know what I do.
It was also referred to, it was referred to the animal control officer who took care of that, yeah. We've started this year, and I know Chad has been recording them, but we brought it into our own system, so you'll see there we are recording incidences that do happen at our private events, in the sense of, but the ones that are held at the schools. So we do have some incidents there where we are recording, and just in case there is any follow-up that we need to do on ourselves. So we continued with ergonomic training and assessments, and we had no hazardous conditions reported during the year. And at the end of December, we recorded 307,000 hours without lost time. So our last lost time incident, touch wood, was in March of 2023. We had safety milestone awards and recognitions going out to staff in December. So as I mentioned, we did have no major landfill fires, but we did, because of the drought conditions, we had a serious risk in the sense of our water for fire suppression was down in our lagoons. So we're, and working with Scott and his group right now, we have a program to try and improve that. We've had some initial discussions with DNR and opening up the trail or the existing road back to the lake. I think it's, forget the name of the lake, but it's right on the property. So they've been very good in trying to start to deal with us on that. So, and they just brought up their fire truck, existing fire truck, to operating condition, which is good news on that. Investigations and recommendations continue. We had 31 investigations completed, 44 recommendations coming out of those, and we completed 23, working on 19 as we go forward into next year. We are a little bit behind on our workplace inspections, and that was just really because of construction and renovations going on at several sites. We just couldn't get out there. So now those are in place. We'll get caught up on that in 2026. The good news on the WCB compensation rates, we continue 68% lower than the corresponding categories, municipal categories. So that results in a 20 or nearly 87-cent drop in our rate off the standard rate, which is good. Roughly estimating that's saving us about $40,000 based on 2024 payroll base. So that good news continues there. From the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee, I just wanted to give a couple of highlights. As I mentioned, we recognized the staff for 307,000 hours. We completed the external audit for the Construction Safety Core program. We did have a management and supervisory training session for mental health first aid. So that was a day session on that health program. Completed the security upgrades at the annex and also the security plans for the new Public Works building. We implemented the respiratory and are just finalizing the vaccination program for our Public Works and Kaiser Medical staff. So the focus, or we're continuing to work on the return to work program, which is the change in legislation from WCB. That requires us to have a formal return to work program, which we're working with the department heads on putting that in, and also looking at the contractor management program as we go forward into the next year. We're also working on integrating to try and get some of the administrative load down. We're trying to get a integrated safety software implemented. That's software which we can do the inspections online and keep all the paperwork down and get the corrective actions followed up directly. Relationships with the Department of Labor continues to be strong, and we intend to use their outreach group more in the next year for some training. And that's really it. The program for 2026, as outlined, We're probably going to be holding our budget pretty close to what it was this year, but our focus will be on updating our staff and management training and also integrating the safety software and moving forward into new systems more than keeping recording on paper and Excel spreadsheets, so. Any questions on that?
Well, it all sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tom? Yep.
Thank you, Warden Weber. Bruce, this is very good information, and I want to compliment you and the staff for, first of all, the safe and healthy staff, which is so important to get our business done.
And the Jobs
continue.
Committee, yeah.
And the fact that we're saving some money, which is huge, because WCB can take a lot of,
Yep.
can drain you very quickly, and it can make a big difference. So compliments to you.
Yep.
That's a very good report. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, any comments? Thank you much, Bruce.
Okay. I think I'm
I
up
think
next
you're
anyway.
next too.
Yeah, just for time, I would suggest that we change, or I just go ahead with 12.3, and 12.2 is really an addendum, so we can, I'll cover the highlights so we can cover in both at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah. So the request for decision is to review and approve the annual P33, which is our registration policy for the fire department or fire services. And the recommendation is to proceed with that. Just as a highlight, the registration data submitted by the fire departments and the commission and the services committee generally indicate that we're adequately funded, equipped, and trained to provide the service levels that they are registering for. Just to review some of the highlights, the fire tax rates. The fire tax rate in the Chester Village District 3 was increased last year by 2 cents to 11.4. We did remove the Chester, or the tax on the Chester Islands, because the fire service boat is out of service. Hubbard's did increase their fire tax rate by 2 cents, and Martins River dropped their rate by 1 cent after the purchase of their payoff of their last piece of equipment. No other changes in the districts and no change in the boundaries. Financials all are on file with our finance group. Those are the audited statements for last year. One is missing, and it's just awaiting final sign-off, which is the Hubbard's group, and as I say, it's done, it's just waiting for final sign-off, so. The corporate status, no change in the corporate status is there, except that we're continuing to work with Hubbard's to look at their re-registration with joint stocks, and that's underway with our legal group right now. Insurances, we maintained our insurance policies with Gallagher and Intact. Luckily last year, we contained our premiums to below 4%, which actually held our vehicle costs to the same as the year before, which I can't promise that'll happen this year, but last year we did benefit from that, so. We talked about compensation, workers' compensation. The 6 departments, we handle and pay for the workers' compensation for our firefighters. Our rate continues to be lower than the basic services rate across the province. We're at 76. It had gone up a little bit, but compared to the rest of the province, it is at $1.02. That's costing us about $17,000 in that ballpark a year for that insurance. Just the highlights, as I mentioned, that are in detail in the staff information report on the calls. As I had mentioned, the fire service boat or the fire boat is out of service, and we have a project going right now to try and see how we're going to address that, and the FAC and the department chiefs are working on that at this present time. No other changes in the major services that we're registering. I think in Angela's presentation this morning, we do have the gap in hazmat, and we're trying to address that right now. None of our departments are beyond awareness for the most part, except for Chester, who does have some technician, but it's limited and wouldn't be able to do a full service. Total number of calls increased. We're now at over 1,265 calls last year for the 7 departments. Structure fires went up slightly, but maintained only a 0.6% call percentage, which is excellent news from a fire prevention point of view. The medical responses continued to be, they decreased slightly, but they're still the major percent, 48% of our calls in the district. Operational wise, no major changes in the chief officers. Rob Williams did replace Doug from the last report as chief of Chester Basin. Our membership remained steady, approximately 220 volunteers across the municipality. And there's more effort right now going into recruitment and retention to try and build that up. It's an ongoing problem. The fire commissions and departments are all attending regular FAC group meetings right now, and we are hosting the chiefs meeting every bi-monthly here at the municipal offices. So those are proceeding. Hubbard's took delivery of their new pumper in 2025, which is good news for them. I'm not going to go into the governance issues, but we are attending meetings, and the commissions and departments are attending meetings with DEM. So we'll try and update council as much best we can going forward. Yeah, so just say that we all participated in the phase 1 consultation, and they're now in phase 2 consultation with, we'll wait to hear what they're going to come back with. I just can't comment on it.
I just want to jump in.
Yeah.
We had a meeting yesterday with the 2 fire service coordinators
Yeah.
for Bruce and Chris from Modal, and then all the CAOs from Lunenburg County and Queens had representation there, just to discuss the fire services. What we know so far, they're looking for feedback from the municipalities.
Yeah.
So what we did decide was that it's probably a good idea to do one presentation that is available to all of the fire departments and presented to all of the fire departments. But we would do that by district. So we would present that presentation to our fire services. Modal would do it for theirs, and the Queens would do it for theirs, but it would be the same presentation. So that presentation will be worked on. And we'll move forward from there. At some point, we'll bring that forward to council as well, to share what we know so far. Yeah.
Just to add to that, Tara, the commissions finally got their scheduled meetings. They're being held virtually on February the 10th and in person in Bridgewater on the 12th. So we were trying to follow up because they were not involved originally. So we did get that updated, and they're meeting in February. So we'll understand what comes out of those meetings also. Yeah.
Those are next week.
Yeah. So there's a couple of options there and a recommendation. Was there any questions on the report itself?
Good to get it, that's all.
Yeah, yeah. Just for your own information, there's more detail and by district and everything. I know, Tina, you like to have that, so the number of calls by department and the type of calls by the department is in the staff report. So.
Okay, so the recommended motion is receive and approve the P33 registration summary as prepared by the Fire Services Coordinator.
And that will allow me to issue the Schedule B registration reports to the commission.
Tom? So moved. Seconder? Second. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now I think I'm on to district grants. I know you've got some minor adjustments on them.
Yes, we do have a couple of minor changes to the district grants. So the two that are proposed for District 1, the District 1 Community Center, $1,500, and the Village Hall, $2,000. Those are as is, no change.
Yep.
The Chester Minor Basketball is the one where there is a change. The overall request was for $2,500. And so the breakdown is going to be $1,500 from District 7, $325 from District 4, $350 from District 3, and $325 from District 2. So just a slight change to what was in your schedule.
Yep.
And then there was one additional request that came in last minute, and it was added to this agenda because there was some time sensitivity to it. So the Forsyths Community School, the hockey team, won their way to regionals, so they're hosting regionals, and they were looking for some financial support. And so they submitted a request, and so that is for $600 for District 4, and that request, hard copy was circulated, and so is on everyone's desks if you wanted to have a look at that. So those are the requests for
Somebody
today.
prepared to move that we approve them?
So moved.
Seconder? Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. There you go. Now, to the best of my knowledge, Abdallah, I'm down to your update on the rally,
Okay.
unless I'm missing something.
Thank you. Just an update on the rally on Saturday. I was working the breakfast there, and it was great cooperation between the, excuse me, Chester Basin Legion and Western Shore Legion. The Chester Basin Legion did the breakfast there, and the Legion provided the venue, and they did the registration downstairs. There were 300 and some machines there, and I just want to point out that Chad and his team went over, above and beyond. I know, and when I was walking Sunday, the group were picking up the signs, and I met them, and I saw them at the Legion. And I didn't know this, but they told me that they had gotten a call from the club in towards 10 Talon. And they said, we'd love to come, and we'd love, not just on our trailers, but some people wanted to drive the trail right from there to here. But, they didn't want to, with the gates. So Chad and his team went and opened the gates for the rally and allowed those people to come. And I just, it's a testament to how our staff works. And they were so complimentary, the men picking up the signs of how Chad went over and above. He, with his team, and they looked, and as a matter of fact, yesterday when I was walking, the team was out putting
Back up.
reinstalling the gates. So, and it was just, the Oak Island Inn was full, and it was just so much economic activity there. Very well organized. The people that did the presentation at Forsyth School put on an amazing. And one thing I didn't know, and I will tell you, there are 60,000. Let that sink in, 60,000 registered machines. Those are just ones, that's not counting machines on farms, whatever, registered. And there's a contribution there of whatever they pay for their, of $1 million. So I just, and I know we made a decision, and I'm fine with that, but I think maybe when we revisit this gate situation and trail situation, we might want to look at some other things as well. But I just want to bring that up, that it was a positive experience. It was well run. People had, they were, it was well received. And they had, and the most calls that they got were basically if they were still going to have it because of the snow. But the second one was, can we get through the trail because of the, and I saw some of the machines here, man. Some of these guys got and I'd say 95 to 98% of the machines were side-by-sides. Very few ATVs. Anyway, that's just Chad's there, and I sent him a note, but I think he deserves some recognition, him and his team, for going over and above. I
Nice of you to
appreciate
do.
it. Thank you.
Sharon, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, that's wonderful. I saw the machines, I thought it was great. But just regarding the gates, we are going to make them the correct size, and I am still in favor of keeping the gates. I know that I had input from someone that lives in East River, and in fact, it was at a rec meeting where she said there were vehicles on the trail because the gates were open and, you know, and it was free sailing, that there were vehicles using the trail. So she wondered if we were gonna keep the gates open, and
That's
we
the
said, no, we're
decision.
not. So we're not there yet. I mean, it's all good when people behave and act properly, but it's just that the education isn't there yet, that people have the opportunity that they go on the trail when the gates are open. That's all.
Tina?
Thank you. Thank you, Abdallah. I wasn't sure at the top of the meeting when you were going to give the report, but I'm glad you did. I'm very excited about that, those numbers and that feedback. And I had forgotten that this event was happening on Saturday until I looked out early morning onto Highway 12 in Aldersville. And machine after machine after machine went by. And then proceeded to go by later in the day, of course. So that's wonderful, because again, it's, and your example, again, real example, testament from Tantalon area. It's absolutely measurable economic impact. So I think that I appreciated your comments too, but when we look through the lens again, reviewing what we may or may not do in terms of some changes, but you know, it's always unfortunate for anything, right? Like I know that an example like on Ross Farm Trail, no horses are allowed, but a couple years ago, there was, you know, evidence obviously of hoof prints, and, you know, one of the bridges wasn't in the best condition, so, but again, buyer beware, user beware. It takes one or two few people to ruin it for so many of the rest of the world, right? But maybe we can, you know, continue to work on that for sure. But thank you, that was a wonderfully economic, measurable, all the above report. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's the end of the council agenda. We have one in-camera matter. Do you want to break before we go in camera or not?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, motion to go in camera?
So move.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.